Welcome, everybody, to the Synapse Philosophy Group. I'm Dr. Haig. John, I'm your host, and we are on D.D. Palmer's book, The Chiropractors Adjuster 1910, page 479. And we've been working on this book for a while, on and off, and I love being with D.D. I love being with D.D. Palmer, getting to his brain and trying to understand him a little bit more. So we've been having a lot of fun. This is innate nervous system in the chiropractor's adjuster on page 479. Anybody have anything before we start? I'm going to just start off. Here we go. What is commonly known as the sympathetic nervous system and the 12 cranial nerves are but branches of or portions of the innate complete nervous system. Now, that was in quotes. This is in quotes again. This is a pet theory of mine. Because of this peculiar fact in the development of the nervous system, we find that it develops into two systems. The innate nervous system acts independently and alone, separate and apart, and it is not a counterpart of the educated nervous system. Neither is the educated a counterpart of the other. But while the innate world be able to perform all of its functions without the educated, yet the educated could not perform one action at any time without the innate nervous system. It is because of this fact that we place such an importance upon the innate direct nervous system, preceding the educated at all times. If our innate nervous system did not exist within our tissue cells, we could not live. The educated could not control at will certain conscious actions. The mind behind these systems are conscious at all times. Now, this is D.D. replying to that. Why not state that there are 12 pairs of cranial nerves instead of 12? Okay, so he's correcting that and saying 12 cranial nerves. It's 12 pair of cranial nerves. Okay, so he's correcting him there. This, the educated nervous system, distinct and separate, run by those two intelligences, is a pet theory of mine. Okay, now he rebuts this. The writer of these quoted paragraphs except the explanatory portion included in parentheses defines theory. Thus, a theory is something which has not been proven. Then, what is commonly known as true sympathetic nervous system and 12 cranial nerves are but branches or portions of innate nervous system is only a theory, something which has been proven. This theory, this is D.D. now, speculative scheme ought by this time to have become practical and cease being theoretical. Why keep it as a pet? Why not make it useful? It's like that's a really silly statement, as he's saying. This dividing the nervous system into two parts, one of which is run by innate nervous system, and into two parts, one of which is run by innate directly functioning of the vital organs, those essential to life in the body, and others by educated. The first, the life of the body, the other, the educated. Was first written upon by me 6 years ago in the early investigation of principles which became a part of the science of chiropractic. It has long become practical and ceased to be theory. So that's what he's saying. That is my thought. Educated, innate, universal. That is his writing, and he's claiming it. And he said it is no longer a theory. This is fact, and it's time we start acting as such. What do you guys feel?
It's pretty clear.
Yeah, absolutely. D.D.'s saying, hey, there's no more theory. We've proven this. Let's act accordingly, right? Anything. Alan, you want to read a little bit after this?
Sure.
Go ahead.
So we're at the bottom of 479.
Yeah.
The late discovery is that disease is the result let me get my light a little better here. There we go. Is a result of bone pressure on nerves, and that to remove that pressure is to relieve the cause, correct the wrong, and bring relief, are statements which form the basis of science of chiropractic. I have an 8-page chiropractic booklet which will stand some chiropractic corrections. Because your, quote, spine is the casement, unquote, a casement is a window sash, not a spine. He may have read of the spinal cord being encased by bony segments. Quote, the cord which carries your nerve food, unquote, the spinal cord does not carry any food of any description. The functions of the spine, quote, the functions of the spine, unquote, the bones of which the vertebral column is composed, does not perform any vital phenomena. Quote, nerve fluids, vital fluids, the ill-fed or starved parts become irritated much as a baby when hungry and cry. The cry they set up is the symptom pain. Give a free nerve supply and you strike at the root of the trouble. Give the starved organs their required motor force. Excess of uric acid, which the kidneys have failed to filter out of the blood. This acid irritates the nerve ends, and pain is the cry for relief. Nerves give expression or impression of ease or disease, he says. To restore the nerve, the cause must be removed. My treatments are based upon the endeavor to aid nature to perform her work without the hindrance. My examinations are made upon the spine and the corrections are mainly made upon it. Specialist in nerves and nervous and chronic diseases, unquote. So that whole thing is a quote from is the text that Dee Dee's talking about. Students in the adjustment class, please correct each sentence and send in your answers. In other words, he's saying that whole thing is full of fallacies and needs to be corrected. And he's giving it to the class to say, you guys send me what you think is wrong with this.
That's it. Yep.
Carol, get in. She's trying to text me, I think. Let me open that back up for a second here. Pardon me. Class here.
Okay, you want to read the next segment?
Sure, I'm ready. The following paragraph is on a chiropractor's card. It is the combined effort of 4 persons who have a, quote, chiropractic institute, unquote. Their education was received from a physician and a chiropractor. So this next piece, it's a long quote here, is what he's saying is on this person's card. Chiropractic adjustments remove the cause of chronic catarrh, asthma, bronchitis, and consumption in the early stages, all diseases or troubles of the eye, ear, nose, and throat, all stomach and liver troubles, rectal, kidney, and bladder troubles, constipation and diarrhea, all forms of chronic sexual weakness and disease, female troubles and weakness, paralysis, headache, nervousness, sleeplessness, insanity, rheumatism, cancers, malignant ulcers, and tumors. Respond quickly and begin to heal after chiropractic adjustments, unquote. Why not say, quote, chiropractic adjustments remove the cause of catarrh, asthma, bronchitis, and consumption in their early stages. All diseases of the eye, nose, throat, stomach, liver, rectum, kidneys, and bladder, constipation, diarrhea, female weakness, paralysis, headache, insomnia, nervousness, insanity, rheumatism, cancers, ulcer, and tumors respond readily. I have cut out 27 words and have said all in 1/3 less words. What you got? Any discussion there? Go on from that. That's pretty clear. He's just saying this. a long discourse that can be shorter and be more concise. So in 481, we start the axis of vertebrae.
The axis of vertebrae.
Axis as AXES, axis as axes is in the line. Yeah. All vertebrae have axes around which they revolve, performing parts of circles, arcs. The superior articular processes of lumbar vertebrae, in conjunction with the inferior of the vertebra above, perform a part of a circle as shown by cut 12, page 483. Each vertebra has a certain portion of an arc to revolve or move in. Further motion is abnormal. It forces the articular processes out of alignment, creates a displacement, and causes the exposed articular processes to infringe upon some spinal nerve. The facets of the superior articular processes of the lumbar vertebrae are concave. They face inward, slightly upward, and backward. Those of the inferior are convex, facing outward, slightly downward, and forward. The superior surrounds, in part, the inferior of the one above, as an axle box does an axle. The articular movement forms a curve, an arc, a portion of a circle. This deflection increases in size as we proceed down the lumbar vertebrae, the axis of which are posterior to the arcs and bodies, their position depending upon the size of the circles. Lines drawn directly from the two facets will converge until they cross each other. This intersection is the center of the axis of the circle, formed by the rotary movement of the two contiguous surfaces. Do we want to keep up with this?
Let's pause a second. I was just going to say, it was one of the ways that we talk in Arno used to talk and teach about adjusting in the arc. And that's where that axis, I really see where he's talking about because there are no real straight lines in the body and the facets and that motion. So if you're adjusting with that consciousness of those arcs in mind, you're not going against the physical nature of the structure and its function. That's the way I see that immediately. Okay. So he's giving the description as you would in 1910. Let's describe these in words, where now we would have lines drawn and all these different things. He's putting it in words to help you understand mechanically how to move this, like righty tighty, lefty loosey, but in in context of a vertebra, which I think is it's as eloquent as way he's presenting it.
In reality, it's not quite what they do today. It's actually better, because we draw straight lines and we talk about moving in straight lines, and he's talking about the fact that it's all curves and you're moving around an arc as you make an adjustment. It's not a straight line thrust. It's, if you have to visualize it as creating a curve as you go. You make the adjustments we do may be straight line, but we'd be better off visualizing the result as being a curve than a straight line change in the vertebra.
Well, that's how, in the beginning, I was taught by Arno Bernier, and that's what he, he was one of the first class. Oh, there's Carol. Good. Let's get her in. And the first class at Sherman. Those guys, they were, educated this way back in those days. Reggie Gold and all that. Pasquale was there. But not at Sherman. He was at Columbia, excuse me, with Reggie Gold. But talking about moving, things moving in arcs, and nothing is totally straight. And those arcs and those.
All right, we got it.
Carol, you made it. I'm so happy to see you.
I don't
Welcome
know,
aboard.
like all these codes. Wasn't
Welcome
easy.
aboard, Carol.
We'll work it out.
Rob's
All
here
of a
too.
sudden, we have to do codes on this thing.
I don't know. Usually I hit 33 to go, so I don't know.
Yeah.
Rob's
You hit
on the
33 and it
computer.
worked?
I did the 1661. It's finally worked.
1661. maybe it's a better thing to have these codes. I'll get one that will be consistent each time, I guess. We don't have that crazy stuff that's happened to us a couple of times. Anyway, let's move forward. Alan's reading right now. We're on page 482.
We were on 81. Do we want to keep going on this though?
Oh, no, yeah, that's what I'm saying. We're kind of skipping. We could go to that poem. This is where, just the last two paragraphs of page 482 is just kind of skipping that.
Okay.
And he talks about the chiropractor using the spinous and the transverse processes of levers.
We have to
Moves the vertebra around the axis point used as a fulcrum. It will be noticed that the axial centers of the arcs describing the movement of the lumbar vertebra and atlas are posterior to the body, while those of the cervical and dorsal are anterior, and the fulcrums of each being in the axis of the center. Therefore, while we relieve an impingement on the dorsal, the cervical by throwing the lever from one side where the nerve is impinged, we reverse the order and movement in the atlas and the lumbar. So the reader will examine arthroidal articulations between the axis and the third cervical. So I think we can skip that and maybe read the little poem.
All right. You want me to go there?
Yeah.
All right. So 483, under that beautiful illustration of a lumbar spine, lumbar vertebra. We shall be so kind in the afterwhile, but what have we done today? We shall bring to each lonely life a smile, but what have we brought today? We shall give to truth a grander birth, but how much advanced today? We shall feed the hungering souls of earth, but what have we done today? That's a poem by Nixon Waterman. And then there's another poem here. They say the world is round, and yet I often think it's square. So many little hurts we get from corners here and there. One life I found while journeying east and west, the only folks we really wound are those we love the best. That's deep.
That is deep. Say the world around me. Yeah, we often think it's square. So many little hurts we get from corners here and there. But one sad truth in life I found while journeying east and west: only folks we really wound are those we love the best. Why did Dee Dee put that in there?
Put it away, Rob. Just watch it on the sheet.
He's talking about, guess who he's talking about, I think.
Maybe Phil's a little heartbroken.
Yeah.
So how's everybody doing tonight?
Doing well.
The philosophy of putting this into, we also talk about putting it into practical use, where Dee Dee was talking about movement and, when we're pulling and pushing and doing things on the vertebra, how can we do it more gracefully? And, using the spinous process and the transverse processes as levers is, really where he brings the art to chiropractic in that discovery. And and putting it into words, I just think it's just really cool what is to hear what he's saying. How is he describing the vertebra? All right, should we continue on to anomalies, or I think maybe we should skip over to who discovered that the body heated the nerves during health and disease? So he's going through different rebuttals again. I think we should just read Dee Dee's part. And it starts the fourth paragraph down, actually. The above circumstances is substantiated by a letter written by that evening to the doctor's son, B.J. Palmer. You want to read that part?
Sure.
The rest is all a quote.
The original part you're saying.
Yeah. So that's on 485.
Yeah. The doctor's son, B.J. Palmer, D.C., also by several following letters, which further explained that the caloric of the body, whether normal or in excess, was furnished by calorific nerves. And then in bold here, these letters were placed with other original writings in one of the 10 bound volumes in order to prove the autobiography of chiropractic from its birth. Here are the original writings, which show beyond a shadow of a doubt who originated the principles of chiropractic. The doctor's son anticipated that some sneak thief would try to appropriate the credit of originality and would desire to rob his father of the honor justly due him, thus his reason for compiling his original writings. So he's given BJ credit there for honoring him in his writings by compiling them into 10 books.
And what were the 10 books that compiling his original writings?
10 books there, right?
Yeah. The doctor's son anticipated that some sneak thief would try to appropriate these, so what, he's, saying, thank you for helping me basically copyright this as our original work, because that could be stolen very quickly. To more fully substantiate the facts related to the above, a cut from the class is given henceforth 487 and the classroom 489. Oh, and the page after this is a picture of
he's got pictures on that. Yeah, he's got two pictures on those pages.
How's everything over there at Crystal Chiropractic?
Feeling good.
How's your leg doing? You healing up?
Healing up real well.
Oh, that's good to hear. That is good to hear. Have you gotten back to
It's a
patients
wonderful
yet?
thing.
Yeah.
You got it back to adjusting patients yet, Bob?
I was out after 5 weeks. I was in there.
Good for you. Christian, how's everything down in Mexico?
There's a cold weather, but we are okay over here.
So you guys are having a cold snap. We're supposed to get to 50 sometime this week. That's
Yeah.
our mega cold snap up here in Florida. 50, everybody freaks out. It's like a snow day.
It's like a snow day. 50 degrees.
No one's heat works in the car to turn it on to like warm up. I'm kidding you.
Oh
Sure.
man, it was we had the 20s last week.
He's got winter coat.
So, in these writings, that's where we have to just stay on track, where again, he is, rebutting and keeping us at true north in these readings. So it's not always easy. And that's why so many people misquote D.D. Palmer, is because they don't know how to read the book. We can take a little pause right there. And,
it does get people do get confused by the way it goes back and forth between the other material. It's hard. We have to be close to pay attention as we're going through this to make sure who's saying what where in this context.
Well, I want to take all of DD's writings out of here, just DD. Like the red letters of the New Testament is just Jesus, right? And just take out the D.D. Palmer parts and the next book. And I was talking to Simon Sensden about that, actually. And he just posted our podcast. He did his podcast, but I was his guest. He just posted it. I'll put it up on my page later. But that's one of the things I talk about. I'd love to take that. It would be easier to read just DD stuff, right? Should we finish this up until we get to that the next page with the picture you want to read? My throat, I've been talking all day.
So since the writing of the above quoted article, I've advanced the science of chiropractic. If I were to rewrite the above article, I would make 2 changes and bring it up to date. Instead of the nerve being pinched in the intervertebral foramina, it is impinged upon just as it emerges from the intervertebral foramina. As I previously have had occasion to explain, the spinal nerve trunk divides immediately upon leaving the intervertebral foramina into 4 branches. 2 of these are somatic, that is, they go to the framework of the body and its covering, and not to the viscera. These are pressed against, impinged upon by the head of the rib and the body of the vertebra being displaced. The ganglia lying close to and upon that joint is impinged upon by its displacement. See the cut on this page. Well, there's an illustration page there.
Of the spinal cord, nerve root, the ganglion. You know, they've got a lot of anatomy knowledge in 1910.
Yeah. Instead of there being, quote, calorific nerves, unquote, whose duty it is to furnish only heat, it is my present opinion that the same nerve fiber is used to convey impulses of various kinds. The thought of nerves heating the body was new to BJ before the necessity of writing several letters has stated. It will be seen that I was then, as now, anxious to give him any new idea on chiropractic. The knowledge that the body is heated through the medium of the nerves instead of by the blood has materially assisted the chiropractor in the explanation of the cause of many diseases. The latter development by me along this line was announced to the Portland School in April 8, on April 8th, 1909. Is that either a lack of or too much heat is the cause of each and every disease? And now we have questions about that data, but it's an interesting concept that they had at that point in time, that effectively some sort of inflammation is the cause, because heat is a result of an inflammatory process, but
what caused the inflammation?
not the nerve itself. The nerves stimulate something else to create inflammation. But it's interesting. The concept is interesting that he's relating the nerves to heat. I mean, why? I guess that probably is some result of knowledge of electricity that they were beginning to have there, and they had there, and that light bulbs get hot. How do they get hot?
Yeah. That's coming up. We're going to get into some more depth. There's a picture right here of it. Looks like a class of something, early anatomy class with D.D. Palmer in the next couple of pages. Yeah, that's the one. Back up a little bit.
I can't get into focus. Sorry. I have
No.
the background focus on my camera. So
we're gonna get to, innate. He's on page 491. But, we're kind of running out of time. We had a little bit of, getting things going. But from here on, we're going to talk a little bit about more of the chiropractor, innate, the adjusting, and get into the chiropractor's adjusting room, which I'm really curious. There you go. There's a good one. There's a good one. There's Dee Dee right there with the skull.
Okay,
I can't see it and hold it up at the same time, so I can't.
All right, we got it. Cool. So what'd you guys get out of tonight?
I know you don't have it.
Oh, we're coming up to a good part here.
I keep going back to some of my old notes. I have so much stuffed onto this 1910. We've been reading it so long. I mean, I was eating a pizza and I had an idea and I got to write it down and I stuck it in there. You know what I mean? I should have put a date on there. Or at least left myself a pepperoni. But I think this was after, actually, it might have been in there for years, but what I've gotten from D.D. Palmer, and this is in my own summary, is made in God's image. We're all a vibration of that vibration, all in God's plan. And he's here, to guide us. What was God's will? The last testament, and you inherit the earth. You inherit the kingdom of heaven already, which is inside of us. And, this was when I think I did this in New York, actually, now that I realize we were in Brooklyn. And, reading from this book, there's so many notes. I can't wait. Really, I'm so excited that we're in the 500s. We have 500 more pages to go. It's only 1,000. That's the biggest
The next
book.
page, we start reading about innate.
Yeah, I'm excited about that. So, that'll come up next week. And guys, I'm back on track, okay? I need a break, all that stuff. We moved my offices. Now I'm in one office instead of two. And I'm not traveling like a madman on Tuesdays to try and get here. So,
Oh,
You know,
okay.
so things are much easier. So I'll see you next week. I got to make a shameless plug though first. February 1st
That's right.
at Sherman College, and it's innate newborn, the newborn adjusting, and and then finding the subluxations, and it's the most important thing because I see a lot of people clicking away and banging, with the activators, and they have no idea how to adjust a newborn. And so this is an exciting class, and I'm happy to be doing it on campus this time. And we've gotten approved for this class because I'm doing it for 8 hours, but I've gotten approved up to 16 hours with my seminars from Sherman. We're just doing this one at 8 hours. So and it's going to be hands-on and interactive things. So I'm spreading the word right now because it's going to save a lot of lives. I have a vision of chiropractors in every labor and delivery, in every hospital around the world, checking newborns for subluxations and adjusting mommies as they're in labor. And I know once I adjusted my wife, she was in labor. Once I adjusted her water broke more, and it was very helpful for her adjustment for her delivery. So my goal is to see that in every hospital around the world. So we have to show every chiropractor how to do it, right? Not everybody has the experience of, Robert Crystal and Alan Lichter. And, how do you get all that experience? Somebody's got to teach you, Carol Crystal, our honorary PhD and everything, and you have a master's in chemistry. Is that right?
Well, almost 1 year towards it.
You're almost there. Listen, you
Almost.
know more about chemistry than nearly anybody I know anyway. So, this is, it's exciting. So I'm happy to be doing this one. And we're writing a paper for peer review on atlantoaxial dysfunction from birth trauma and the probability of SIDS. And I have an epidemiologist helping me write this paper right now. So hopefully we are going to save a lot of lives.
Oh, yeah. Absolutely.
Alan, were you going to say something?
No, I'm thinking back to all the way back when I was at school and at Sherman and people talking about, adjusting babies back then and that was like, I studied with Larry Webster. I used to go, his course was an elective course for pediatrics. And I used to go down to the Lucky Street Clinic in Atlanta from Life University, where he was the clinic director of the Lucky Street Clinic. And I used to go down there one night a week to take the pediatrics course with about 5 other people, and we were learning pediatrics from Larry Webster and the breech turning technique that he developed. And that was what pediatrics was back then. And then I was at later on when he and Eddie Cohen started the ICPA. I was a founding member. And was one of the original people to take the 10-week seminar with them, and that was like Fred Barge and Claudia Onrig and Armand taught one of the weeks. It was an unbelievable course of who's who in chiropractic, pediatrics, and philosophy back then in a 10-week seminar, 100
great.
That's
hours.
great.
It was
fantastic.
It's just I feel so blessed to have been able to meet all those people, study with Clay Thompson, and yeah.
Well, everybody have a beautiful
you all
night.
have those stories. I know you all do.
Yes, and
Chris,
it's up to us to share them. That's why we do it. I'll be honest, you got to, or else it fades away. So we had the greatest mentors in the world, and we're passing it along. So I feel blessed. Maybe we come to Mexico again. I'm going to Cuba. I'm speaking in the event in Cuba, and I don't know if you guys are going. A lot of New Beginnings people are going to be there, and I'm going to post it around some of the Latin pages, and it'd be nice to see some of the guys from Mexico come out and come to the Cuba event. I'm sure you can fly to Cuba from Mexico, right? But so that's going to be Valentine's weekend. It's right after my seminar, so that'll be a lot of fun. And I'm really trying to bring the kids and my wife, because that's a be amazing experience to go to Cuba. I've always wanted to go. Everybody, I love you and appreciate you. Have a gorgeous night. I miss you. I can't wait to come and see
I
you
hope
again in
this
New
next
Jersey.
week's
We had a
easier
lot
to
of
get
fun.
on.
You gonna send a new link for next week?
Yeah.
I'm gonna figure out how to get. I don't know where all these codes came from. We
No.
never had that before.
No.
So
Yeah.
they lost some of the recordings. I didn't post them right away, and all the recordings disappeared. So
Oh my.
there's quite a not a whole lot, but kind of the end of the 33 principles that we just did. So anyway, I'm not gonna complain, but I want to complain. All right. Good night, guys. I love and appreciate you.
Have a great week.